as promised, I'm going to be doing some live coverage here on the French elections. I've got a video recording as well here that I'm going to be putting up, so I'm going to do a little introduction to that, and then we can go ahead and get started. So, let's adjust this here. There we go. All right. Well, this is, my name is Mitchell Hernandez. I'm one half of the Devil's Advocate podcast. I'm going to be going over the French elections here. And let's see here, we're about 20 minutes away from the first results. I'm broadcasting here from Missouri, so it's going to be 12:40 here, about 1 o'clock. It's going to be 8 o'clock in France. And then we're going to start seeing some results rolling in. So pretty excited about that. But since we got a little bit of time to wait here, I thought I'd go over a little bit of the points here. Mainly, I wanted to talk about the debate that took place. And I'm going to pop the top here real quick. There we go. So I actually was able to watch the French debates in English. Which was a little bit weird because you kind of have to rely on these people giving you the proper facts and whatnot, and making sure that they're translating it right, which I have no idea if they are or if they aren't, simply because I speak a little bit of French, but not nearly enough to keep up with them and they did not stop. Like, they were just motor mouthing the whole time, and I was like, nope, it's not me. I don't know it. I got no clue. But what really struck me is I'll start it off by saying, in the Devil's Advocate, I am the conservative. I am the Republican. That's kind of what I do. That's where my beliefs lie. So I was coming into it thinking, you kept hearing about Marine Le Pen being a far-right candidate. And, I'm thinking, she's this super conservative, super hardcore, like Republicans type figure. And that didn't really seem to be the case as I was watching the debates. She had a lot of, of what in America would pass for liberal policies that she kept going on. She also didn't seem nearly as well versed in everything as Macron, who seemed to really know. I mean, his background is basically as a economic guy. He's briefly was in the socialist government, so obviously he knew a little bit more of what was going on than she did. He kept making fun of her, saying, I think you've got the wrong files. You've mixed your files up. And that was the other thing that really kind of struck me with Macron, was I agreed with a lot of his stuff. And I know it's kind of weird because he's kind of like, at least here in American politics, he's being compared to a lot as the French Hillary Clinton. He's got big corporatist ties, and he's for the establishment and the EU and all of those things. And, he's participated in government and all of that. And as more and more the debate went on, I kept agreeing more and more with what he was saying. And I was like, no, this is all cool. And at the same time, I'm still a conservative in the American era where I like to see change. And so that part of me was kind of like, I hope Marine Le Pen wins, because I want to see I want to see the establishment get shaken up. But at the same time, I was like, no, everything he's saying I agree with. Like, that's cool. I like that. So, and there were some things I didn't like with, but he seemed to come off as level-headed, where he was basically like, no, this is the reasons why we can't do these things, because it costs money, money that we won't have if we do that. So I thought those were all pretty okay ideas. The thing that I didn't like that he kept doing is he kept calling her stupid. And not only did he call her stupid, but at first I saw him catch it. He kind of caught it, and he was like, I'm not mad at the people who support you. They're angry, and I understand their anger. You're manipulating their anger. And I thought, well, that's a great play. That's what Hillary Clinton should have done instead of you're deplorable. And then as soon as he got done doing that, he switched it over to, I don't think the French people are stupid enough to elect you. And he said it at least 3 times. By going on, and then, he interrupted her. She said, please stop interrupting me. He said, I'll interrupt you because you're saying stupid things. Like, don't do that. Like, that rubs me the wrong way. That rubs I can't tell you how many times I've seen arguments where people just start saying you're stupid, and that doesn't help your argument, because if he's making a point, and he clearly or her in this case with Marine Le Pen, and she clearly knows at least somewhat of what she's talking about, calling them stupid doesn't make sense, because they're not stupid. They're just something you disagree with, and if you do disagree with it, figure out how to convey that in a way that makes it look like you're winning. And I didn't think he did that. Now, a lot of the things, like I said, I agreed with, but only on principle, not really by the way he was selling it. He was kind of really soft on it. He didn't really have a lot of passion. So I saw that and kind of thought, as the French people, I could see where they would be like, fuck this guy. Like, I'm not stupid, and just because I support Marine Le Pen doesn't mean that I'm stupid. And that's kind of how he came off. That being said, I don't think she's going to win. And I'm totally fine with that. I think, like I said, I was okay with almost everything that Macron was saying. I just think that he was a little ineloquent in going about saying it. When it came to Marine Le Pen, she didn't seem to have as much of the facts, or as he kept calling it, your files are messed up. She didn't really seem to have that. She had a lot of passion, and she had a lot of that, we're gonna fix everything, and everything's gonna be better. But there wasn't a lot of substance to it. And as the debate went on, she started to kind of get a little bit more of that into it. And he kind of wavered. At first, he was like 3 or 4 minutes ahead of her for most of it. And then she kind of pulled away and decided to start, really hitting back on him. But she wasn't as rude as I thought she was going to be. I mean, they really do a lot to make her seem like she is absolutely just the worst person in the world and all of that. And it didn't seem to go that way. Like, she wasn't overly respectful. She was saying snarky things from time to time, but nothing as bad as calling the other person stupid. So when it comes to the final takeaway from that debate, I thought that Macron, I agreed with him more often. I think Marine Le Pen won that debate. I think that if I was a French citizen, I would have identified more with what she was saying, saying that we want to keep the retirement age at 60. Macron was saying, nope, we're going to have to bring it up because guess what? People are being able to work. They don't work these strenuous jobs. They can work at a desk and they're living longer. So the retirement age is going to have to go up. I totally understand it and I agree with it. As a French citizen, I would be like, nope, I'm cool with 60. So I can understand that more of what they were doing. Which again struck me as a liberal policy, but whatever, that's fine. She seemed to just be very hard on immigration and borders. And the thing to keep in mind there is that France has seen quite a few attacks. They also have a very high Islamic population. I think somewhere between 11 to 13%, somewhere around there. So it's very high there. They've seen a very high number of attacks. Obviously, we saw Charlie Hebdo, and then we've seen quite a few other attacks as well. Now, mostly with knives and things like that, or cars. It seems to be the new one that they like to do. But that was basically her argument, was saying that, no, this hasn't helped us. And then she brought up the fact that there are, I believe she said 11,000 that they're watching. There's a suspected terrorist on the watch list, which seems incredibly high. And that was kind of her point in everything that she was saying, was that, like, no, that's way too high. This isn't safe for us. If we have this many people, why aren't we doing anything about it? And Macron was kind of just like, well, I'm against all terrorist organizations, whoever they are. Thanks, dude. I mean, that it doesn't tell you much. I mean, that's a very blanket statement that you can just kind of put out there and hope it plays well. And I don't know, maybe it will. I mean, obviously, there's not a lot of people in France. When it comes to comparing it to other populations like the United States and whatnot, it's not a huge country. And Paris, obviously, being the capital, the biggest city there, I think Marine Le Pen had a 5% or something. Like, she wasn't doing well. So that doesn't bode well. I mean, it's kind of like that when it comes to America. If you look at you look at the map, it's mostly red. There's just blue cities. but there's so many people living in those cities that it tends to overcompensate for the people out there. And that's kind of why we have the electoral system, which I noticed they do not have. I mean, right now I'm looking at over 50% of votes needed to win, and they narrowed it down to 2 candidates. So that's kind of how their system works. And that makes sense for them because, you know, there isn't a huge population. It's not a huge area. When it comes to the United States, I very much am not for going just to a popular vote because I do think, then, okay, California and New York just basically decide the election. There's a little bit of sway every here or there, but obviously you know where they're going, and they have the most population. Most populated cities are typically going to go liberal. So at that point, like I said, I think Marine Le Pen won, but I think it's too little too late. Unless something is completely wrong and all of these, and all of the polls and everything is, I mean, we saw this in America where the polls were just completely wrong. That's all it was. I mean, they were basically, and I was someone who watched the polls very religiously, I guess you could say. Every day I would go there and I would look at the new polls and I would see what was going on. And what irritated me, and because I was still watching CNN at the time, I do not watch CNN now because, come on, why would you watch CNN? And what they would do is I would see, 6 polls would come out that day, and there would be 2 of them tying, 3 of them that had Donald Trump up by 1 point, and then 1 out of like Washington State or something that showed Hillary Clinton leading by 12 points. And that's the one that CNN would report on. It'd be breaking news, Hillary Clinton up by 12 points. And then they don't correct it or say that, hey, there's other ones. Or maybe they drop like one. There's other ones that contradict it, but then they would go right back to that one. So maybe that's what's happening in France. I've seen a couple of on-the-ground reporting where they talk about, what do you see? And there was a few Le Pen supporters or a few Macron supporters. He doesn't have a lot of support either. Neither of them do. They're kind of seen as like fringe party unpopulars. It's like if the Constitution and the Green Party were the final round of the U.S. election. It'd be like, what? What? Like, so they're not overwhelming support or anything. I think people are going to still vote for him. I think they're looking at 70% participation rate in France, which is actually low for them, So, but basically what they were saying is they think basically the same thing, that the media is kind of overplaying Macron's lead. And even if they are, I think that's a hard lead to break from. I mean, it's at 24 points, the last that I've seen it. So that's definitely an uphill battle for Marine Le Pen. I don't think that she's going to. When it comes to the actual election, we're about 8 minutes away from getting any type of results here, and I don't think she's going to win. And I'm okay with that. I didn't think I'd be, because being a conservative and being a Republican, I kept hearing about her, and they're like, oh yeah, she's the next one. We really want her to win. And then I heard her policies, and I was like, well, I can take it or leave it. I don't live there, so it's up to the French people, but they are an ally of ours, and we obviously want them to be doing well if they can be. And honestly, I don't know a ton about the French economy. I know that François Hollande, the socialist president who beat out Sarkozy last time, is extremely unpopular. And I know that one of the big things that I learned about with François Hollande is right whenever he came into power, obviously he was the Socialist Party. And the first thing they wanted to do was that 75% tax bracket. And all the rich people left, and they were just like, no, we're not doing that. And a bunch of them went to Russia, who had a flat 7%, was just like, hey, come on in, go for it. So that kind of backfired on them, and it sounds like a bunch of other things have backfired against François Hollande as well. The one thing that I kind of saw that surprised me about him is how hawkish he was. But they've been attacked much more than we have. But I've seen them do a lot of attacks as well, kind of what America used to be doing. So, but at the same time, they're getting attacked, so it makes sense that they would have to get up and fight back. So, basically, like I said, when it comes to Marine Le Pen, I don't think that there's going to be riots if she loses. I think there's going to be riots if she wins. If anything was, now I don't know what they're called, because here they're called Antifa. And whenever I was watching the debate, they called them Antifa in the French debate, talking about the French protesters that came in on May Day. And basically they were supposed to be protesting against Marine Le Pen. That's what they said they were doing. And then it turned into a huge riot against the police. There was Molotov cocktails thrown. That one cop was basically just put up in flames. I saw a bunch of cops, though, that were just like shaking their legs. I was like, dude, stop, drop, and roll. I don't know what they're teaching in France, but apparently it's not stop, drop, and roll, because he just kept shaking his leg and looking at it. And I'm like, that ain't going to work, buddy. So obviously now, but they looked the same. They had the black clothes, the black bloc tactics, which is kind of going on. And they're supposedly the far left, which Macron is not associated with. He's a centrist, corporatist type of candidate. So they don't like him either, but they really don't like Marine Le Pen. Which again, I don't pretend to understand all of the nuances of French politics, but I don't really understand why, because she seemed pretty liberal. But I guess they don't like the whole "you're a fascist because you want closed borders" thing. When it comes, and another big thing that she kind of supports is leaving the EU, which I think that well, she wants to put a referendum into the French people, and honestly, I can't see how anyone could be against that. Like, I could see how you'd want to vote for staying in the EU, but giving the French people the option to leave or not, I think that's fine. Like, that's kind of what we're supposed to all be about with democracy and all of that. The EU hasn't exactly worked out for everybody. I mean, it's been nice for Greece, who's been, not so nice for Germany. And so I get that it would take a while, and that's kind of in the debate where he tripped her up quite a bit, because she said, hey, I want to get out of the EU. And he said, all right, well, then what type of currency are we going to be using? She said, oh, we'll go back to the franc. And he was like, oh, well, then what are the business going to pay with? They're like, oh, well, they can pay with euros. And he's like, so we're going to have franc for the regular people and euros for the others. That's not going to work. And he kind of tried to trip her up, and she was like, we've tried it before. It will work. So that's kind of the way that it was going. But I thought that was kind of a good exchange for him. But he's an economics guy, so I'm going to trust him a little bit more than her. She just seemed like she was like, well, I kind of think this. So, but I'm not a huge fan of the EU. I don't see it being exceptionally necessary. No, I have friends that have gone to Europe, and they seem to love it, but they also are incredibly liberal. So I can't pretend like that doesn't play into kind of what they're saying. I'm sure that's kind of half the reason why they like these policies. But yeah, if Marine Le Pen wins, I can see some massive protest. The French just love protesting. That's kind of that's their thing, is they're just like, no, we're going crazy, we're going to protest. So that's kind of what I see happening more often than not when it comes to these situations. So let's see here. I'm going to take a quick update here and see if we've got anything coming in. Nope, still looking like it's 0%, 0%. We've got people who are live tweeting. And let's get to a couple of these and see what's going on here. What Macron means for Brexit. Pollsters predict final turnout will be 73% to 75%, down from 80% in the past 4 elections. Mr. Macron's odds of winning have shortened to 1 in 25. I mean, that doesn't sound horrible. While Marine Le Pen is drifted to 22 and 1. Let's see here. Surveys taken put Mr. Macron's share of the vote between 62% and 67%, which would obviously be a flat-out win for him, which I think is probably what you're going to see. I mean, right now in the polls, he's at 24 points ahead of Marine Le Pen. I don't think it's going to be that much. I think that he's probably going to be about, I would say, 58% of the vote. I think it's going to be a little bit closer than this whole 50 or 62% and all of that, simply because we've seen that. And whenever I was watching the U.S. presidential elections, I gave Donald Trump 3 more points in every single poll, because I kept thinking there's got to be people out there that are just afraid to say they're supporting him. And I ended up being right. It ended up being, and I think that's the same with Marine Le Pen. I think that there's at least a little bit of people out there who are afraid to openly say, I will support her. And I think you're going to see a little bit more of that drift up. Now, that being said, 24 points is just a mountain. I don't know how they're going to. I don't know how that's going to, be able to climb that one. Here's another one that says Mr. Macron is set to win 60%, so that's a little bit closer to what I was thinking. Centrist won support among voters abroad in the French territories. Blah, 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 blah. Centrist. The Belgian outlets are leaking the poll results. Speaking of leaks, let's real quick hit kind of what has been going on here. So a bunch of leaks kind of happened on 4chan. So if any of you guys go to 4chan, I do go to 4chan, and I do check out a lot of their things. And 4chan is a pretty odd bunch of people here. But basically, they are saying that they are the ones that hacked him. They came in, they took a bunch of his emails and things, and they released it, and it could be a scandal and all of that. And of course, immediately they're saying, "Oh, the Russians did it." And any of you guys who watch this podcast know what I feel about the Russians. I feel that there has been at least 5 or 6 different times that if there would have been Russians involved in it, they would have shown it. So I was on 4chan, and I saw the other day, it was like proof that the Russians hacked Macron, and that was it. They left some Russian words in the code. Don't do that. If you're a hacker, you know not to leave Russian code inside of your, to leave a trail behind. That seems very stupid to me, especially because 4chan is out there saying it was us. We're the ones who did it, and look at what we've been able to do. So I don't believe for a second that Russia was involved in these last-minute hacks for against Macron. But they went blackout on it. They pretty much shut it down for him and said, like, nope, you're not allowed to talk about it and all of that. They're going to try to go after the Anons that posted it on 4chan, which, man, I hate 4chan talk. Being someone who goes to 4chan, sauce, dumbest thing in the world, man. If you're the source, you're asking for the source. You're not asking for the sauce. Things like that irritate me. And Anon, what's up, Anon? It just means anonymous. It's just irritating. But basically, yeah. So I don't know if it's going to sway anyone or if those votes are going to do anything. Now it says results are expected soon here. We are past the 8 o'clock point in France. So now we should start seeing some results coming in, and this should be pretty interesting. They were pretty quick, I thought, last time whenever it came to the first round. So let's take a look. I'm going to update this one real quick and see what we got. French elections results live. All right. Oh, France exit poll. First exit poll coming out shows Macron at 66%. Marine Le Pen at 34%. So that's an exit poll. It's the France L flop early exit poll. Okay, so I think it's probably gonna Macron wins 60% of the vote. Exit poll suggests with verdict expected. Yeah, it looks like that's probably what's gonna be going down. Far right takes pro business. Early lead. Wow. They look really happy. So I saw some French people there that were pretty excited, apparently, that Macron is. Yeah, here's the results here. Updated today. So he's sitting at 65% to her 34%. I'm disappointed. Wow, even though that's exactly what I thought was going to happen, I'm still disappointed. Here's Marine Le Pen here. Just doing a few things. She looks happy. I don't know why. Looks like you lost. Oh, this is from earlier when she voted. Yeah, man. I don't even know why I'm upset because like I said, I identified a lot with what Macron was saying and what his politics were. But at the same time, the asshole in me is just like, no, upset the establishment. Make them upset. So I'm kind of bummed out now. Man, that kind of sucks. Let's see if there's anything else here that I'm trying to see if this is just the projections. Is this the actual 100% vote? If Macron wins, he will be the youngest French president. I think he's 39 years old. 10 years older than me. Jeez. And obviously, if Marine Le Pen would have won, she would have been the first female president of France. Goddamn patriarchy. It's just holding them all down. No, I do not think that that's what happened here, obviously. So, well, that's what it looks like. I'm going to keep an eye on this. I'm not going to keep the live thing going throughout the whole thing, especially if that's really where it's at. I mean, that's massive. That's 30%. So it's gonna be a hard hill to climb if she's trying to do that. And I can't tell if this is just all of it. It's just like, nope, that's it. I assume they have to count these. I don't know if they've been counting them as they've been going. So we'll have to kind of see how that plays out. However, it looks like at this point pretty decisively that Macron has won. It could be wrong, but if I am, I'll have to update it. I'm just going to kind of keep this going here. Here's another update coming in, 66%. Media blackout in France until the polls close, so they haven't even known anything. Initial results are expected to reveal the new president soon after. And I think they have. So what does this mean? I think it doesn't mean anything. I think it means that everything's going to stay the same in France. I mean, I heard he had some okay. I mean, they're wonky. It was wonky bullshit. It was just, really in the weeds type of reforms that he wanted to do, and it doesn't sound like anything. So, sucks, France. It sounds like you're going to get more of the same, and it sounds like things aren't going great for you. That being said, I don't think that Marine Le Pen would have been able to do a great deal of what she wanted as well. So with that, I'll kind of wrap this up. I'm disappointed, and I don't know why. Because I'm actually totally fine with Emmanuel Macron winning. He looks like he will be the next president of France. Marine Le Pen will have to, I don't know, go somewhere. She'll have to figure out something to do there. Maybe she can try again. Pull a Mitt Romney. That's kind of what she did now. She tried before and didn't do it, and now she's got as far as Mitt Romney did, so she'll have to go the way of Romney and just go away. But no, I'm joking. I don't know if that's what she's going to do. Anyway, I guess, we're going to have, I'll wrap up this live stream here. So basically, we're going to have I'm only one half of the Devil's Advocate podcast. Brandon is going to be joining me for a larger segment on the full run-up to the election, the election results, obviously, which we've seen here, that Macron looks to have won. So this is going to be in the full show coming out on Tuesday. As for YouTube, I'm going to go ahead and edit this and get it put up as election results. And we'll take it from there. We're going to be covering a lot of things this week on the Devil's Advocate podcast. The American Health Care Act passing the House, obviously the protest in France, and then the French elections, and then moving on to a couple of speed round things that you definitely don't want to miss. So be sure to like and subscribe for all our future content, and we will see you then.